members of the Fourth Estate, our people in Radio Land. We seize this moment to wholeheartedly as maybe the CPP is currently engaged with the National Elections Commission in the train of events leading to the conduct of the December 8th special senatorial elections. It is against that backdrop that we've invited you here today to provide our most current statement on how we are engaging the National Elections Commission, and we also touch on our issues. This press conference is being carried live in on-demand on radio, on-demand, in Bon County on Super Bungie, in Grand County on Magic FM, in Nima County on Radio Nima. Well, so thank you for coming at this juncture. Chairperson of the Collaboration Party, Ms. B. Cummins, who's going to present the statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, class. And good afternoon, everyone. I'm here this afternoon with the former Vice President of the Republic of Liberia, His Excellency Joseph Numa Boykai, who's also the political leader of the Unity Party. The Youngling Kanga Lawrence is unable to be here. She's in the county in Grand Bassa, but she's fully supportive of the statement I'll be reading to you this afternoon. And the Honorable Benana Yuri also couldn't be here with us today, but is fully supportive of the statement we're going to read to you this afternoon. So with that, all other protocols observed, I will read a statement and then we will take questions, a few questions from the Fourth Estate. The Collaborating Political Parties of Liberia, CPP, comprising of the ALP, the Alternative National Congress, the ANC, the Liberty Party, the LP, and the Unity Party, the UP, is outraged and offended by the decision of Associate Justice Sienna Yo to decline on hearing its petition for a writ of mandamus intended to compel the National Elections Commission, the NEC, to clean up the 2017 voters' roll. While the CPP acknowledges the discretion of justices in chambers to accept to hear a petition or to decline to hear it, we also know that in electoral matters it is improbable to decline such a petition. By the brazenness of her decision, Associate Justice Yo has issued a warning to the CPP and the opposition community that challenging the integrity of the electoral process is an exercise in outright futility. This is despite the fact that election remains the most sacred process of our democracy and is a trigger for conflicts. By her decision, the Associate Justice also leaves the CPP sadly impressed that the Supreme Court, the anchor of our democracy, is wanting in courage, grievously stricken by a lack of independence, and overcome by external considerations and maneuvers. By electing to situate herself, the authority of her office, and the Supreme Court between the CPP and the National Elections Commission, and thereby undertake to effectively shield the National Elections Commission from answering to what is truly and unavoidably at the heart of the credible conduct of the ensuing midterm senatorial elections, the Associate Justice has confirmed to the CPP that the Supreme Court has parted with its sense of neutrality and fairness to decide matters of grave and urgent national concerns. What the CPP cannot ignore, however, is that the decision of the Supreme Court has undermined the credibility of the upcoming elections. In our petition for the issuance of a writ of mandamus on the National Elections Commission, we did not ask the court that they would require Associate undertake any exemplary display of courage in the exercise of the authority and functions and to assure us by credible evidence we felt constrained to simply petition the court through the office of the Associate Justice to compel the NEC to clean up the voter rolls of 2017. Strangely, this cleanup exercise, which we were asking the Supreme Court to compel the NEC to undertake, was one instructed by the Supreme Court of Liberia, on which the Associate Justice was privileged to be seated on December 7, 2017. Two, recommended by an ECOWAS technical support team to provide critical assessment of the register of voters. And three, as recently as June 5th, was directed by the joint resolution of the legislature with a force of law. In flagrant disregard and wanton neglect of the aforementioned imperatives, the NEC is again seeking to take our nation down the dangerous and unhealthy path. A road along which Liberia's interest in consolidating its peace, stability, security, and democracy will be best served by avoiding. While the CPP is seeking to call the NEC priorities and respect for the rule of law, so that the ensuing conduct of the midterm senatorial elections and referendum will be seen to be free, fair, and credible, Associate Justice Yo is offering the NEC protective covering to flout the law with impunity and take our country down a dangerous path. Sure. The CPP felt compelled to seek the intervention of the Supreme Court as a matter of legal recourse after it had exhausted every available opportunity to impress the National Elections Commission the critical and urgent need the electoral body has to undertake the important duty of cleaning up the voters' roll of 2017. Simply put, the current voters' roll, absent a cleanup, is defective and cannot form a basis for the conduct of credible midterm senatorial elections and referenda. As such, we had hoped that the court would have found the courage to present evidence of a cleanup that the Supreme Court itself directed and ordered, or have the NEC explain recalcitrance and negligence to perform this vital undertaking in responsible preservation and consolidation of Liberia's democracy. Unfortunately, Associate Justice Yo leaves the CPP with the regretted impression that the Supreme Court cannot be relied upon to independently perform its constitutional role of anchoring our young democracy. Therefore, the faith of the CPP in the integrity of the institutional framework for the elections is shattered. The CPP, without confidence in the capacity and integrity of the NEC and the Supreme Court to deliver free, fair, and credible midterm senatorial elections and referendum in our country. In dismissing our petition, the Associate Justice, and by extension, the Supreme Court, has invited the CPP to accept the absence of the rule of law in the country and encourage mass political action intended to preserve Liberia's democracy, which was gained on the blood, sweat, and tears of many Liberians and friends of Liberia. The CPP will not allow the conduct of any fraudulent elections that presents high and dangerous risk to our nation's peace, security, and democracy until the voter roll is clean and measures are taken to create a level playing field for free and fair elections. We urge the international community and friends of Liberia to intervene in the quagmire that the decision of Associate Justice Sienna Yo for what is truly dangerous, provocative, and profoundly disruptive of Liberia's peace and democracy. While the issues surrounding the ensuing senatorial elections are paramount to the long-term peace and security of our country, the CPP is equally concerned about the growing wave of mysterious deaths across our country. The recent bogus confirmation of Mr. Maxwell Kemaya as Foreign Minister against widespread public outrage about his unresolved sexual harassment allegations and what seems to be the biggest passport scandal in the history of our country. These mysterious deaths notably began with the death of Mr. Matthew Innes, a senior staff of the Central Bank of Liberia, whose murder happened at the peak of investigations into the misapplication of CBL's $25 million United States mop-up fund. The recent death of Mrs. Gifty Lama, Mr. Albert Peters, and Mr. George Famboto, under circumstances similar to those of Mr. Innes, is troubling to say the least. This is no longer an isolated case of accidental death. It presents a pattern of the mysterious deaths of people who earn their stripes for being professional, principled, and uncompromising financial auditors. They have died at a time of people of their kind. It is even more mysterious that all these people work at two of the biggest financial institutions, the Central Bank of Liberia and the Liberian Revenue Authority. The CPP calls on the government of Liberia an independent investigative commission to probe these deaths and report to the people of Liberia promptly. We would like to remind the government of Liberia of its foremost constitutional responsibility of providing security for all Liberians. The government of Liberia cannot continue to remain silent in the face of the embarrassing revelations being made by Mr. Andrew Waplo, alleging the dubious wholesale of Liberian passports to criminals and people suspected and listed by some of the international partners for terrorism, money laundering, etc. The silence of the government of Liberia on a matter that impinges the integrity of the presidency and its failure to begin investigating some of those being named by Mr. Waplo, particularly Foreign Minister Wesley Finlay, under whose watch this alleged criminal enterprise operated, is disturbing and telling. The CPP applauds the role of our international partners in ensuring that an amicable compromise was reached between the government of Liberia and health workers who recently protested for decent working conditions and better incentives. We particularly appreciate those health workers for listening to our calls for a compromise and call on the government of Liberia to for once demonstrate the moral courage of living up to its side of the agreement. Finally, the blatant refusal of President Weah to recall the nomination of Mr. Maxwell Kemaya as Foreign Minister of Liberia and his recent bogus confirmation in the face of serious sexual harassment allegations is outrageous. If the blatant refusal of the CDC to feature a single female candidate on his senatorial ticket didn't tell the women of Liberia about how insensitive this regime is to their people, the confirmation of Mr. Maxwell Kemaya does. Fellow Liberians, our country is on a retrogressive path. Irrespective of political alignments and other social affiliations and statuses, it is time to rally a national people's action to rescue our country. We believe a first step to doing so is for all of us to speak out and expose the ills, as well as reject anyone that bears the logo of CDC at the polls in December. Thank you for coming. Thank you very much on behalf of the former Vice President, our other colleagues and leaders of the CPP, and now back to Clark to orchestrate a few questions.
That was a statement from our chairman, Tony. And at this juncture, we'll entertain questions. You raise your hands, we'll identify you, you will introduce yourself and ask your question. One question at a time. Yes, sir.
My name is Edwin Chino, I work for Front Page Africa. So with the action of the justice, does it mean that you as a party, the CPP, will you resort into the political action you spoke about when you did submitted your petition at the court?
The answer is yes. We will continue to exhaust all legal remedies. We are an institution of the rule of law. So we'll continue to exhaust the legal options. But yes, we will resort to political actions.
What is that action?
Those actions are being discussed as we speak, and we will communicate to the press and the Liberian people what those actions will be.
Yes, sir. And we would like to recognize the presence of the chairman of the Democratic Party, Steve Amadou Jabosago. The message, yes, sir.
Honorable Minister, my name is Josh. I work for Smartness Liberia Online, and it's also the Liberia contact person for the Danish newspaper in TK. My question is, you talk about writing a national people's action. You care to share with us what is this national people action that you're going to write?
Yes. So, in addition to the CPP, we believe and we have begun to reach out to other political parties. For example, the Rainbow Alliance. But we will reach to other political institutions. We will reach out to civil society organizations. We believe all Liberians who want our country to move forward in the right way should rally together to demand that the elections in December 2020 is free, fair, and credible. So we'll rally all Liberians to join us in this effort.
Next question.
Okay, so thank you so much. My name is Darlington Popa, and I correspond for Radio France International and the West Africa Democracy Radio in Senegal. On the very day you went to the Supreme Court seeking the intervention of the Justice in Chambers to issue the writ, the very day the Elections Commission chairperson had a press conference and she said, immediately after the voters broke up the process, there is a process in the election law that calls for you political parties to go and list with NEC and other international observers to clean up the voters' roll. So going back to the Supreme Court or the full bench of the Supreme Court seeking their intervention into the stalemate, don't you think it's prudent to just go with the Elections Commission and have them work with them to clean the voters' roll?
You recall from the statement that we have been working with the National Elections Commission very, very consistently, very persistently, following all of the rules and regulations of the Commission. But unfortunately, we have gotten no response, no recourse. And so we're left with no alternative but to go to the Supreme Court. As I mentioned earlier, we'll continue to exhaust all legal avenues, including continuing to go to the NEC, to go to the Supreme Court, but we will couple that with political actions. And as I mentioned, those actions are being discussed, agreed amongst us, and we'll be communicating to the Liberian people very shortly. As I also mentioned earlier, we want to build a broad coalition of Liberians. And of course, that will take time to do before we announce our political actions.
The next question. Is there any question? Well, if there's no
if not, I want to say a few words, if you will, and or the chairman acting on behalf of Senator to say a few words, and then I'll make some closing comments.
I would think this is a press conference, and then we stick to the press conference. That's enough.
All right. Steve, any?
Yeah, I mean, the Liberty Party support the full. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So again, on behalf of we want to thank you for your presence here today, and we want to assure the Liberian people that what we're doing today is in the interest of our country, of our people. We want to protect the votes of our country and of our people, and we want to restore good governance to the people of Liberia. Thank you very much. God bless you, and God bless Liberia.
Thank you for coming. Just wait a minute while political leaders exit. The press can remain.